across Uganda on your preferred number.
Subject to availability.
50% data bonus is valid till 15th November 2021. Airtel, the smartphone network.
You. Yes. You and I, all of us, have to go green at the workplace to protect the environment. Here are some of the best green practices you need to adopt at the workplace. Ensure responsible waste disposal. Opt for recycled paper and paper products. Conserve
my home. I smile when I think of you, Uganda. My home. My home. I dance when I look at you, Uganda. My home. Oh, my Uganda.
I know with you I'll always stay forever. I know, because I feel that we belong together. My home, under the sun so bright, under the moon at night, on my heart, mommy, oh my Uganda.
Hey, mama.
At MTN, we look forward to starting another exciting journey together to grow our home, Uganda.
Beyond Beauty Parlor and Spa, your beautification destination. We believe in suitable beauty. We offer pedicure and manicure, makeup, hairstyling, plating, weaving, dreadlocks, massage, waxing, facial and body scrub, name it. We also offer additional services like honeymoon packages, hiring venues and vehicles for brides and grooms, training interns from different beauty schools. We are located on Uganda House, ground floor 5. Call to book for your appointment on 0702 645 015 or 0414 696 6229. You can WhatsApp us on 0752 645.
Good evening once again, and thank you so much for keeping it UBC TV. It's still me, Michael Jordan Lukomwa, and we now have an interface. I would call it a brief look at the state of affairs in our country, because we're going to look at a number of things that are happening in Uganda, and I have the honor to host the Minister for Information, Communications, Technology and National Guidance. One would say the host's mouth itself in terms of government is what we have this time round. That is the Honorable Dr. Chris Baryomunsi. Sir, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Jordan, and good evening, viewers.
How is your evening? How has been this cold day in your
No,
view?
the evening is fine. Today we were in cabinet.
Okay.
It was a very cold morning, rainy, but we had a whole day in the State House cabinet where we discussed a number of things.
So we have the right man here with us.
Yes.
We celebrated 59 years of independence as a country.
Yes.
That is yesterday but one.
Yes.
And it was sealed off with a victory by the Uganda Cranes, who made us now celebrate more.
Yes.
What do we look at? Where do we look forward to go as we make 60 years as a country free from any other people's hands?
Yes, thank you very much. It was gratifying that as a country we are celebrating 59 years of age since independence, 59 years of self-rule.
Exactly.
And I think it is worth celebrating. Because if I can take you back to history, that Africa went through lots of challenges, especially occasioned by foreigners who came, invaded Africa without our invitation. You recall we had a period when we had slave traders, people who came here, took us away into America, into Europe, to work as slaves.
Yes.
When slavery and slave trade lost their shine, now they came up with a colonial project where the European countries sat in Berlin, decided to parcel out Africa and shared us.
Where?
Like you are sharing a piece of cake on the table. You go there, the British, you are here, the French, the Belgians, the Germans, the Portuguese, they just shared. And for us, we happen to be under the British. And they came, and for about 70 years, we were now ruled by these colonial masters who came without our invitation. When they came, we had our own leadership, and largely like in Uganda, we had these traditional cultural institutions, kingdoms, like Uganda Kingdom, Bunyoro Kingdom, Ankole Kingdom, Busoga Chiefdom, and so forth.
Yes.
They came and more or less dismantled the governance structures which were there, and they came and imposed themselves on us, changed the architecture. Like for instance, here in Uganda, when they signed the 1900 Uganda Agreement on land, up to today we are still grappling with the issue of Milo land.
Yes.
That was occasioned by the colonialists coming here. Of course, they later signed another one on the Ankole and the Toro on land and so forth. And we want to salute Ugandans and indeed Africans who fought for independence, because independence was fought for. These colonialists, these European powers, did not want to leave. But there was a sense of consciousness within the Africans.
The natives.
The natives. We got the activists coming up and drumming up this mobilization to have self-rule.
Yes.
And that's how, in the early 60s, starting with the Ghana 1957, we have a wave of independence now among African countries. Of course, some countries delayed to get independent. Some got independent even in the 80s. Countries like South Africa, 1994, when apartheid was removed. But the majority of the countries in Africa got independent in the early 60s.
Yes.
And it was a moment of joy across Africa. But these colonial powers did not want to leave. So much as there were ceremonies where they left, but indirectly they remained behind, trying to influence what was going to happen in these countries.
Sure.
And many people argue why countries in Africa have not moved so fast.
Have they left?
That's the other question.
Because you say they took time to leave, but as we speak, 59 years. In other countries it is 58, 51. Have they really left?
That is the question. They may have left in terms of human beings and the color.
Formally.
Their influence still there. When you look at what is happening in Africa, exactly. And what happened immediately when they left, one leg went, another leg remained behind. Now, most of these activists who were championing independence ascended into positions of presidents and the prime ministers and took over these countries. But they were greatly undermined by these colonial powers. And indeed, a number of them were killed, were assassinated in the few years of becoming presidents. You can talk of, for instance, Patrice Lumumba.
Yes.
In the DRC, because he made a very tough speech on Independence Day when he said the history of Congo shall be written by the Congolese. They marked him. The Belgians soon after had him assassinated. But with the collaboration of the local leaders in the DRC. You go to Togo, Sylvanus Olympio, the president, he was assassinated. If you were not assassinated, you were deposed through a coup d'etat.
Yes.
Like in Nigeria, the president then, Nnamdi Azikiwe, was removed, and the prime minister, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, was killed. Osajefo Nkuruma, the first president of Ghana, was removed through a coup d'etat. So the colonial masters were using the indigenous natives to undermine the leaders who had fought for independence. What happens then? They now impose a new set of leaders who are largely inexperienced, but also turn into dictators. Dictators. Just look at what happened in DRC in Congo with the Mobutu, Desire Mobutu becoming president. We all know what happened. Just look at the Central Africa Republic with Bokassa. Bokassa, a very cruel dictator. It is recorded that his wife had a tailoring company which was supplying uniforms to schools. And one day when he was driving in Bangui, in the central capital city, he saw children not putting on the uniform made by his wife, and he ordered for them to be shot, and they were killed. So that kind of impunity from leaders.
The governments that now replaced.
Replaced, yes. So Africa lost a lot of time. When you come here to Uganda, you get Prime Minister Obote. Shortly after, he's conflicting with the president. Mutesa. Mutesa is going to exile. Obote is abrogating the constitution. Shortly after, he's also, through a coup d'etat, removed.
Thrown out.
We know what Idi Amin did. So Africa, including Uganda, lost a lot of time after independence.
The post-independence
20,
30 years.
30 years was lost. Actually, the colonial masters left us at some level, and most of the countries went downhill because of the interference, first of all, by the neo-colonial arrangements of these people.
Their choice to go and keep around again.
But also inexperienced leaders who took over, and a number of them turning into despots, destroyed the countries down. When you come to the situation of Uganda, by the time the NRM leadership came into power, the NRM leadership under President Yoweri Museveni inherited a country which was a failed state, as we see. If you compare with the patient, President Museveni inherited Uganda, which was like a patient on oxygen in ICU, severely sick. And therefore, the initial years of the leadership of NRM were basically like resuscitating a patient. You see, like you get a patient, is in the coma, on oxygen. So initially you start resuscitating so that somebody can breathe normally. So the earlier years of 80s, late 80s, early 90s were really years of resuscitating. Giving back life. And now, 50 years where we are, we can say a lot of progress has been realized in many areas. Whether you agree with NRM or not, the achievements are visible. Like you recall, I don't know how old you were, Obote II government in the 80s. There was a scarcity of almost everything. Do you know that the time when, even if you had money, you couldn't get sugar to buy, or soap, or salt? There was even a minister in charge of supplies. And if you wanted to get either beer or sugar, you have to get a cheat from the minister for you to access. Actually, it was the minister of scarcity, if you put it the other way. But if you compare with the situation today, the country has been revived, the economy strengthened, a lot of investment in infrastructure, a lot of investment in the quality of life, and life has improved. And therefore, that's why I said, yes, it is worthwhile celebrating 59 years because we have passed through a lot, and where we are, Uganda is on a forward march.
At that very point, Honorable, yes, we look at the strides and whatever we have achieved, but when you look at where we still have gaps to close,
yes,
what does it tell about where we're going to make 60 and beyond?
Yes, despite that gloomy
politically,
beginning,
socially, economic.
Yes, despite the gloomy beginning that I've described, I think we have overcome most of those challenges.
Yes.
We have registered a lot of progress, and the future is now promising. Of course, we have not yet arrived there. It's a struggle, it's a journey. But you can comfortably say that things are much better than they were 30, 40 years ago.
Honorable, you sit where many of us dream to sit.
Yes.
And dream, not all dreams come true.
Yes.
Where do you think we have a gap that we have not yet touched fully as a country in the 59 years?
Well, in the 59 years,
yes,
the NRM government has tried to address all corners, whether it is education, whether it is health, whether it is road infrastructure.
What is that one thing that has really become that stubborn in the 59 years?
Whether just hold on, whether it's extending electricity or water services, we've tried. Although, of course, there is need for scaling up and reaching all the corners. But at least there is that progress. Maybe the challenge I could see, one is that our population growth is quite high. Of course, there have been debates on the issue of population, and now the challenge that comes with it is that whatever investments we make in different service delivery areas, population growth undermines the quality and the capacity for us to reach everybody. What do I mean? If you look at, say, the fight against poverty, when you look at the figures, they will show you over time the proportion of Ugandans who live below the poverty line has been coming down from about 54% in the mid-90s now to about 19%. That's a tremendous achievement in terms of decline of the people who are ultra poor, those who live below $1 a day. But when you go into absolute numbers, you find the numbers are still large. They are in millions, those who are below the poverty line, because the reason is we are producing very many people. So we need to match the economic growth with the population growth in order for us to have a better quality
in a
of
nutshell,
the population.
The one problem that could be still standing, 59, as we go to make 60, could be some challenges when it comes to fighting poverty.
Absolutely, yes. Number two.
Why do you attribute it to only population growth?
No, it's just one among the many.
Okay.
One among the many.
How have we handled other factors that?
The second challenge that we look at is that we have corruption.
Okay.
Misuse of public resources, hemorrhage of public resources within the civil service and the public service. I think we appropriate resources as parliament, we approve money as government, but as to whether this money translates into service delivery up to the old women and men and children at the village level, I think there are still leakages and hemorrhage which we must stop. So that whatever resources, because the corrections, the revenue has been improving. So we should do everything possible to ensure that whatever revenue, whether it's locally generated or borrowed or whether it comes as a grant, it should be invested in interventions to improve the quality.
To trickle back down to the man at the grassroots.
Absolutely. And make sure that we plug all the holes.
How are we going to achieve that, Honorable?
That requires a concerted effort from all of us Ugandans.
That is something we have agreed upon as a whole country for so many years.
Because most often you look at the government alone.
What stops the achievement to see it gone?
I think it had become...
Can we really identify these leakages, the points where they are?
Yes, we can. We have established institutions to fight corruption, anti-corruption court, the Auditor General, committees of parliament, which are accountability committees of parliament, police, PPDA, all these institutions are there.
IGG,
the Nakarema, anti-corruption outfit in State House.
Yes.
And all of these are there. But you see, it takes two to tango. Most often when you speak to the public, they think corruption is only in the government. Yes, we concede there are elements of corruption within the government, but corruption has become pervasive in society. You will find it in churches,
but
and
it is
faith places.
But it's the one in
you will
government
find
that
it.
bites.
No.
Why am I saying that, Honorable?
You will find it in the in the NGOs, in the civil society, yes, even in the local population.
Honorable, why am I saying it is the one in government that bites? Because at the end of the day, you're the ones with what belongs to all of us. If somebody has theft in his house, it is their business. But if somebody is stealing from the whole village, then all of us are affected.
But if somebody can steal in the house, then if lands on the government resources, they will just steal on an industrial scale.
Before we leave now that issue, how do we fight it to see that we get a national solution generally?
I think we must condemn corruption from all corners. First of all, we must punish it, like from the government side. It should attract the highest level of punishment so that it is not attractive for you to touch irregularly the public resources.
Okay.
But two, we also need to intensify the campaign, the mobilization, the sensitization, education, to instill ethics and integrity in the population. Because much as we say there is corruption, but most often it is occasioned by the members of the public. If you are going to a public office, why do you accept to pay a bribe? Why? Why don't you refuse? If a police officer, a traffic police officer stops the bus or a matatu which you are driving.
You're talking about very small pockets of what
No.
is the problem.
No. You see, corruption ranges from those high, even if it is 500 shillings, and you are bribing a government official. It may look small, but it speaks volumes. So the question I was asking, if a traffic police officer stops this taxi because it is overloaded or it is flouting COVID regulations, why should that driver pour out to 10,000 to give the police? So would you blame the police officer that is corrupt alone, or even that driver of the taxi is also equal? So we need to mount a huge campaign in the country to instill ethics among our children so that we can root out this corruption. Otherwise, it has infiltrated society, and we must work hard.
I want us to look at three more issues before we get off the site. COVID-19,
yes.
How far have we gone in fighting it, briefly, as a country?
COVID-19, the figures we are
What is the
posting,
current?
good. There is a continued steady decline in the infection rates, generally in the country, although we see pockets of increases in some parts of the country, like Teso, West Nile, parts of the north, Kabale, Rwanda, we see increases, but generally, I think the infections are getting down, but we would want to appeal to the public that the challenge is still there. Much as, yes, countrywide, we may be preventing and controlling this COVID-19, but we should still stick to the measures which we've been announcing, putting on masks correctly, washing hands, using sanitizer, physical distancing, and all these measures. But most importantly, as you know, we've been bringing in vaccines in fairly large quantities compared to the past, and the vaccination campaign is on. And we appeal to the population that the only answer that we have that will get us out of this challenge of COVID-19 is for us to get vaccinated.
Okay.
And once your opportunity comes to get the vaccine, please go for it, because the vaccines are safe and they can protect you against the disease.
And it's one way that will give us a permanent solution.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But so far, so good. And we have tagged vaccination to opening the space, allowing schools to open again, increasing numbers of those who can go into gatherings and churches and prayer places. So please, let us comply and come and be vaccinated so that we can go back to our normal situation. The way you see in those areas where they have vaccinated over 70% of the people, like in Europe, they are back to normal.
Still
Even as we
briefly,
shall get
Honorable,
there, yes.
give us a picture of what the state of affairs is in Karamoja. Briefly.
Well, Karamoja, You know, historically it has been an insecure area, but it's under the NRM government that we restored peace, stability, and security in Karamoja.
Currently, we hear different stories.
But now we still get pockets of criminality, insecurity, where the cattle rustling is again happening. But these are inter-ethnic sort of invasions, and one ethnic group going to rustle cattle from the other, but this is being controlled. The security has been brought on the alert, and we are now using UAVs and manned aerial vehicles, we can call them drones, to monitor what is happening, and the situation is getting down.
Okay.
Because initially part of the problem was that a group would come, rustle cattle, and then the army and the police have to pursue them on foot, or not on foot, but yes, using vehicles, or even on foot in the bushes, which would delay getting there. But now with the technology of using UAVs, you are able to detect where they are, intercept them, and the situation will be brought under control. So the people in the Karamoja should not worry. That criminality will be brought under control.
Okay. Yes. I'll wind up with the political kind of situation. We are hearing of the opposition coming up with an association, a pressure group. They are coming together. What have you heard of that as government, and what information do you have? Because they sat the other day, they launched, and today they laid out a plan.
No, we've been hearing Dr. Kizabesige and
yes,
his team.
They voted him as their leader,
saying that they are forming a pressure group to address transition, to remove the NRM government.
Yes.
Not through elections, but I don't know through what means, but whatever means which are not elections are unconstitutional. And you see, when the COVID situation came and lockdown was announced, a number of places were locked, and up now they are still under lockdown. Part of the places which are still under lockdown are theaters, where we do perform plays and act drama. So maybe they are trying to act some drama.
Really? In
the country. Yes, yes.
So we shouldn't expect police to waste time on these actors who are just going to act drama?
No. If you act unconstitutionally, we watch you. So I think Dr. Besige and the group are just trying to keep themselves relevant in the public, to dominate the news, to be a headline like I saw you on UBC, one of the stories. Maybe that's what they want. Because, one, let me take you back to independence. We got independence in 1962.
9th October.
9th October. We celebrated the 59 years, as we have discussed. Between 62 and 1986,
yes,
those were 24 years. In the 24 years, we had over 8 presidents. 8 presidents.
Yes.
But we had elections only twice, in 1962 and 1980.
Yes.
So we're changing presidents. There were as many as the way we take breakfast every day.
There were actually 7 presidents. Is it 7?
Are you sure? Depends on how you count. There is even a time when we had a presidential commission of 3 people
yes,
constituting a president. So depending on how you count.
Okay.
But Uganda failed under that experiment of changing presidents every day. That was the worst time Uganda went through. So meaning that changing presidents or leaders for the sake is not necessarily the solution. Their quarrel, if you hear what they are saying, is that the NRM government has been in power since 1986. Therefore, they want to form this coalition, this pressure group, to remove it.
In fact, in his words at the launch, we had a story. He said, Uganda has not experienced a peaceful handover power from one president to another 59 years. That is, I'm quoting Dr. Besigye. And the NRM is not allowing that to happen.
So is it just changing from one president to another the solution to Uganda's problems? No. What we learned from that post-independence period of 24 years is that merely changing a president from one to another is not necessarily what Uganda desires. What Uganda desires is having a president or a leader who knows what the problem is and who is delivering to the satisfaction of Ugandans. Now, in a period of NRM...
Not changing leaders.
Leaders can change.
Okay.
But who changes them? The one who changes the leaders are the people of Uganda. I'm sure you know that when NRM came, it established a constitutional order, a democratic practice, where every 5 years, Ugandans make a decision from the level of a president to an LC1 chairperson. If you are an incumbent and the Ugandans are satisfied with you, they will vote you, you continue. If you are an incumbent leader and Ugandans are not satisfied with the service you are giving them, they will remove you and replace you with another person.
In his words again,
yes,
about that, all the institutions that would facilitate what you are saying are under the charge of the NRM as a party, as an organ. So it cannot allow, it has not allowed them to participate freely, where probably they could have changes of leaders.
At that rate, we may advise him to migrate maybe to another country, because if he's saying Ugandans, for instance, did anybody force him to vote a candidate not of his choice in the elections we have had? I can say, without fear of contradiction, that Ugandans have the freedom to vote candidates of their choice. If he's not happy that the Ugandans still vote President Museveni, then he should blame Ugandans, because President Museveni is weighed on the basis of what he has been able to do as a president. And the majority of Ugandans still find him suitable and appropriate, and they vote him again. Just look at Parliament, what has been happening in Parliament. The attrition rate in the Parliament is over 70%. The voters assess you as an MP. If you have not delivered, they remove you. How did the voters remove FDC as the biggest opposition party and replace it with the NUP? Are you saying it is NRM which said, Ugandans, you vote out to FDC and put more NUP members of Parliament? If he's talking of a transition, transition is happening, like in the Parliament. The leader of opposition has transited or transitioned from FDC to NUP.
You know where Dr. Besigye's focus is.
No, okay.
Am I wrong?
And I'm now telling him that through regular...
You know where his focus is.
No, and I'm also answering him.
And actually now, to bring the details of his allegations,
yes,
he thinks, not actually only him,
yes,
they believe organs of the state like the Electoral Commission, courts of judicature and all that are under a remote control of the NRM. So the NRM cannot be beaten in an election.
So what does
when the Electoral Commission is under their charge, when the courts of judicature under their charge as a party, that is how they do
So where members of his party participate, say, parliamentary elections and win, is he saying NRM doesn't know those areas? Where in the Kampala here, the sweep and the opposition defeats us, are you saying we don't have a machinery to crush whoever votes against us? Where we get defeat, like in the previous elections, we used to get defeated in Rukunjiri, his own place. Is he saying there's no NRM in Rukunjiri? My answer is, Ugandans have the freedom to participate in elections, and they decide on the candidate of their choice, from the level of the president, from the level of to the level of the LCs. Let him stop abusing Ugandans. When they go to the ballot, they know what to do. Where has he been getting the votes that he gets?
That's where you take him for a joke.
Why don't you think why wouldn't we give him 5%? Why has he been getting 30%? If you are saying NRM controls the votes, why does he think we cannot give him 5% or 4%. Why does he get?
You have been giving him that 30.
No.
So, Doctor, is that why you look at him and his group as a joke?
It's a joke because Ugandans are not fools. They have just participated in elections. And FDC participated with a candidate, NUP had a candidate, all these political parties. On his own, he didn't subject himself to the will of the people again. And they made a decision. The president was sworn in. We were sworn in as members of parliament. There is a running government. There is the opposition in parliament with the leader of opposition that acknowledges that there is a ruling party, there's a ruling government, and the government is running. So for him to say, now we are forming a pressure group to remove government. And I'm saying the only way you can become a president, if his desire to be president, is to wait for the general elections. He subjects himself to the population, the will of the people. They will vote. If they want him, they will vote for him.
I want us to wind up.
But for him to think that...
This is your fellow doctor.
Yes.
At that level, I'm sure he knows what you're talking about, waiting for elections and what. He has been standing for presidential elections. He was in government. Yes. Why do you think he would come up with this kind of a measure with all the information that he has?
He just wants to be relevant.
Really?
You see, first of all, I think NUP has taken the space of FDC, and he's trying to rise so that he can occupy some space in the opposition politics and in the country. But many commentators will tell you that he's just daydreaming. He has had very many pressure groups in the past. 4GC, For God and My Country, People's Government.
But as government, you have never taken any of these groups for granted.
No, what impact?
The interface that we have seen,
what impact?
You have not treated them as a joke.
No. What impact have those pressure groups created?
Doctor, your reaction would tell the impact you expected of these groups.
Of course, we are elected by the people to protect the Constitution. So if anybody, including you, breaches the provisions of the Constitution, the state will be available. We are not a sleeping government.
Pour me with my microphone. I don't expect to breach any.
No, if you don't, you have no problem. But if you breach the provision of the Constitution, if you start engaging in a constitutional, even myself, if I started engaging in the constitutional activity, definitely the state would come in. So,
what unconstitutional kind of things should those people avoid that may cause them problems?
Of course, the mere fact that you say we want to remove this government, and we're not talking about elections, but through other means, already that statement is unconstitutional. So we shall wait for them to see those means.
Okay.
Probably he's thinking of having rallies and assemblies. If he's to have them, then they must be organized in accordance with the law. If they breach the provisions of the law, definitely we expect police and other state actors to put him in order. Simply because you're an opposition leader doesn't mean that you will just do anything and you just ignore what the law provides for. No.
Doctor, you are a member of parliament.
Yes.
On the NRM ticket.
Yes.
Yes. I've read on the social media and other platforms that actually this group is working with you to delete the NUP from the scene. That these are people working with you, the NRM. I have now an opportunity to
well, if they want to join the NRM, they are welcome.
Secretary General.
No.
But you're a member of the NRM. Is basically working for you and this group?
No, not really. If he wants to join the NRM, our door is open. But to say that the NRM
there are other opposition colleagues of his that blame him for being a member of being a member of the NRM, clandestinely working with you to confuse other opposition actors.
No, I am not aware of that. Now, which member of NRM would he be working with? I am one of the senior members of NRM. I'm not aware.
No, do you have other wings that work like that?
No.
Thank you so much.
NRM wouldn't work that way. That it starts now appearing before the public that wants to stop NRM. So how would NRM now start posturing that wants to stop NRM? If he wants to join NRM, then he can formally come. Our doors are open. Okay. But it's not true that we are using him or the politician is working with. I think he's just trying to find some space in the politics and also continue being relevant.
Okay.
That's how we look at him.
Doctor, you may call it space, but at the end of the day, we see a lot of energy that will come out, and this will tell us that this is not just a fight for space.
Well, if that energy is negative energy, and
I mean, there will be energy from the state side.
Yes, it will come. It will come if whatever is organizing is in the breach of established order, is in the breach of the law. Definitely, the state, you can't expect it to keep quiet. It will come and put in order.
Okay.
Because we have gotten a mandate of 5 years to lead this country and focus on delivering services, focus on improving the quality of the people. People are not in the mood of politicking. We had times for campaigns, politics going everywhere. Where was he? Now when people are peaceful, they are stable, the rains have come, they want to plant their seeds and planting materials. Now you want to bring politicking. We don't eat politics.
Okay.
Whose children is he mobilizing to come and demonstrate? When his own are studying in Oxford outside, and then you want our children to start dying on the streets.
Isn't that typical of politicians?
No. We shall not allow him to do that. We shall not allow him to do that. If he engages in the activities which are unconstitutional, which are illegal and irregular, definitely the state machinery will handle him. And these other people.
There's so many questions as we wind up about we want our children back to school. People crying about expensive internet services to have these digital classes at home.
Yes.
I think let us wind up with a look at that. What plans are there?
The president.
I have a relative who was supposed to be in senior 1. By now she's supposed to be in senior 3, and she has missed. I don't know how much.
Of course, all these are occasioned
there?
by COVID-19.
Yes.
But the president has already announced the timeline for opening schools, because it has been an issue. November, universities and tertiary institutions open. January, the rest of the schools, secondary schools, primary schools, and already universities are
all of them
advertising
at
and so
January.
The Ministry of Education will announce.
Okay.
There may be some sequencing because we have lost like 2 years. So you'll find a class like senior 1 will have like 3 streams. There are those who were in senior 1.
Exactly.
There are those who missed the other year. Then there are those who are now joining senior 1. So the Ministry of Education is working out the details on how they will be reporting. But the schools will open. But we continue to encourage Ugandans to embrace vaccination because the opening is tagged to vaccination of our children, the teachers, and the school workers. The issue of internet, yes. The cost of internet has been appreciably coming down over time. And us in the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, we are working around the clock to bring down the cost of internet. One of the reasons why internet is high, or is still relatively high, is that the users are still few.
Okay.
When the users are few, then the cost gets high. So one thing we are addressing, that we are going to expand the national backbone infrastructure to the rest of the country so that you can hook as many people as possible. But also we are inviting many investors who can invest in this infrastructure to hook on the backbone. So once you have connectivity in the Western Nile, in Karamoja, in Chigezi, and you get many people who are accessing internet, the cost will definitely come down. There are other measures which we are undertaking, but in the short run, in the coming months, we should be able to see the cost of internet coming down, but also access improved, and we also discuss the cost of devices. We are looking at education because we have been challenged by this COVID-19, that our learners, whether you are in Karamoja or Kisoro, you should be able to also do online learning, but also other activities like e-business, e-trade should also be done. So we are working on that issue of connectivity and broadband.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for the time and whatever we have shared. Just a piece of message to a Ugandan watching as we close.
Thank you very much. So as we celebrate 59 years of independence,
yes,
At 59 years, you are a mature person, and therefore Uganda has matured. We need unity, we need to work together as Ugandans, despite areas which make us different, but we must all be proud to be Ugandans, and let's have a common goal of working together to see that Uganda can celebrate another 59 years, and the journey ahead looks very bright, and therefore we are going into a better future than where we are coming from. I thank you very much.
His name is Dr. Chris Baryomunsi. He is Minister for Information, Communications Technology and National Guidance, and indeed we have had a look at the whole scope of what is happening in our country for the little time that we had. We'll get more time because there are so many issues. Doctor, thank you so much for coming and whatever we have shared. Let me get back to you at 10 p.m. with news. My name is Michael Jordan Lukomwa. Bye-bye.